The conclave amphitheater was half-lit when Ambassador Isara Kenth set her water down. Emergency generators hummed beneath the obsidian floor, a sound the chamber was never designed to absorb. She had measured the temperature 3 minutes earlier, 88 degrees Fahrenheit. The carafe touched the metal folding table with a soft clink. The sound echoed for 3 seconds. High Arbiter Shrell stood at the central dais, mandibles locked shut. His compound eyes, 12,000 individual lenses, scanned the tiered seats rising in concentric rings around him. 17 seats remained occupied. The rest, all 904 of them, sat empty in the dark. Who engineered this collapse? His clicks reverberated off stone like breaking glass. Isara did not climb the 14-foot difference between the supplicant platform and the main floor. She stood where she had been placed. Her jacket pocket held a copper coin minted in 2098, worn smooth by 29 years of friction against her thumb. You broadcast footage of 14 million dead and asked if we understood efficiency, High Arbiter. Her voice measured 62 decibels. Conversational. We understood. We simply redefined which variable you were optimizing for. She pressed a button on her hand-typed 7-page brief. The amphitheater's hologram came to life above them. 3 numbers appeared in pale blue light. 4.1% stellar output reduction. 13 years time until outer colony collapse. 0 Voranthi casualties. We did not kill anyone, she said quietly. We made you inefficient. She picked up her carafe. The water was still warm. What they did next took 141 days. The Voranthi never saw it coming. Stay close. 141 days earlier, Commander Bridger Halley's finished row 38 of a gray wool scarf and set the needles down without looking up. The human delegation quarters measured 14 feet by 20 metal folding furniture, exposed ventilation ducts, fluorescent lighting that buzzed at 240 hertz. The Voranthi suite occupied the entire upper arc of Nexus Station, 16,000 square feet, bioluminescent garden, acoustic dampening that made footsteps disappear. Halley's picked up the needles again. Click, click, click. Dr. Amara Osai sat cross-legged on the floor with a hand-crank tablet balanced on her knees, studying star charts that moved when she turned the crank. Her steel canteen sat beside her, dented at the base from a drop she never talked about. Mint tea, always cold. Steam rose in thin spirals. Sophia Ruiz drank instant coffee from a chipped mug that read World's Adequate Parent in fading letters. She had brought the mug from Earth. It had survived 4 transfers and 1 decompression event. The coffee tasted like burnt plastic. She drank it anyway. Yuki Tanaka set a ceramic jar on the table without comment. Inside, 291 fragments of human bone, donated by terminal patients who wanted their matter to mean something after death. The jar made no sound when he placed it. He had wrapped the base in felt. Ambassador Isara Kenth refilled her carafe from a 12-volt heating element that plugged into the wall outlet beside the air vent. She clipped a handheld thermometer to her belt and checked the readout. 88 degrees. The exact point where heat becomes comfort without becoming pain. She opened a wooden box. Inside, 42 photographs of humans killed in the First Contact War before the Conclave recognized bipedal primates as sentient. She touched the corner of the top photograph, a boy, maybe 9 years old, holding a model spaceship. She had never learned his name. The records listed him as Casualty 17A, Sector 9, Earth Defense Grid Breach. She added a 43rd photograph to the box. A girl, 16, Himnar species, bioluminescent skin that glowed soft green in life, gray in death. Amara Osei stopped cranking her tablet. Silent Shepherd files are open. Halley's kept knitting. Click, click, click. Amara turned the screen so everyone could see. Plain text. No encryption. The file had been sitting in public archives for 39 years. No one had ever looked. Project Silent Shepherd. Authorization, 2145. Classification, Survey Infrastructure Civilian. Assets, 52 gravitational lensing arrays. Dimensions, 900 meters wide per array. Power, 2.7 terawatts local stellar harvest. Placement, interstellar dead zones. Coordinates logged as derelict probe debris. Purpose, redacted, See Appendix 7G for contingency protocols. They cataloged it as space junk, Amara said. She drank her cold mint tea. We've had 52 arrays positioned in dark zones for 39 years, each one capable of bending light from a star, each one disguised as a broken survey probe no one bothered to haul back. Sophia set her coffee mug down. The ceramic clinked against the table, and the conclave never noticed. Why would they? Yuki's voice was quiet. He had opened the bone jar. One fragment sat in his palm. Empires don't look at what they consider beneath them. Isara wrapped both hands around the warm carafe, 88 degrees. The conclave's stone amphitheater absorbed sound like a tomb. She drank and let the warmth settle in her chest. They will notice tomorrow. Tomorrow was the hearing. High Arbiter Shrell of the Voranthi Ascendancy stood 9 feet tall, with an exoskeletal structure that resembled a praying mantis, rendered in black and silver. 4 arms. Blade-like ridges on his forearms. Ceremonial but sharp enough to cut. His carapace bore 847 kill marks etched in vertical lines, one for each civilization he had personally overseen the processing of. Processing, that was the term the conclave used. He projected a 400-foot hologram across the amphitheater's vaulted ceiling. The Himnar homeworld filled the dark space above them. Orbital mirrors the size of cities focused stellar radiation onto the surface. Oceans boiled. Cities turned to ash. 14 million lives ended in 8 standard days. No survivors, no ships, no cultural artifacts preserved, just thermal wake and bodies drifting in the debris field. Shrell's mandibles spread laterally. Amusement. The chitinous scrape echoed off stone. Your species numbers 9.8 billion, yes. His clicks translated through the chamber's audio system as formal superiority. We could process Earth in 4 days. The chamber held 421 member species. None spoke. Isara sat on the supplicant platform, 14 feet below the main floor. The platform forced her to crane her neck upward to meet Shrell's compound gaze. She did not look away. She drank from her carafe, 88 degrees. She set the glass down with care. She did not stand. She did not object. She pulled a data chip from her jacket pocket and inserted it into the recording terminal beside the platform. Shrell's mandibles closed slightly. Confusion. Case File 774, Isara said. Her voice carried in the acoustic void. Himnar Extinction Event. Submitted for archival record under Conclave Charter, Article 12, Subsection 9, Evidence Preservation for Future Review. She pressed the button. The file uploaded. Shrell's mandibles spread wide again, full amusement. There will be no review, Ambassador. The resource optimization doctrine is conclave law. The Himnar were processed legally. I know, Isara said. She stood. That's why I'm filing it. She walked back to the human quarters. Her footsteps made no sound on the polished stone. Behind her, Shrell watched the file index. 743 gigabytes. Testimony, orbital trajectories, thermal scans, biological samples, survivor interviews, all 9 of them. He deleted nothing. Deletion would acknowledge the file mattered. He left it in the archive. Public record. Case 774. Another filing from a species that would learn efficiency soon enough. That night, 9 Himnar survivors requested a private meeting with the human delegation. They arrived at the quarters carrying no weapons, no ships, no leverage. Just a length of cloth folded in careful squares. They unfolded it on the metal table. 14 million names inscribed in bioluminescent ink. The ink glowed soft green in the dim light, fading already. Bioluminescent compounds degraded without living cells to renew them. In 6 months, the names would be illegible. The eldest Himnar, her name was Thessal, and she had been a school administrator before the processing, touched the first name on the cloth. A child, 4 years old. He had liked drawing birds with chalk on the walkway outside the learning center. Isara read the first 100 names aloud. Her voice did not waver. Each name took 3 seconds. 50 minutes later, she reached name 100. She looked up. I will read more tomorrow, she said, and the day after, and the day after that. Thessal's eyes, large and dark and still carrying the faint green glow of her species' bioluminescence, met Isara's. Why? Because someone should say them out loud, Isara said. Before the ink fades. Halley's finished the gray scarf, row 216. He folded it, walked to Thessal, and held it out. She took it, wrapped it around her neck. The wool was warm. She wept without sound. Yuki added 9 bone fragments to the ceramic jar, 300 total now. The conclave operated under what it called the resource optimization doctrine. The official text ran 4,000 pages, but the core principle fit in one sentence. Species deemed inefficient could be removed to prevent resource drain on the galactic economy. Inefficiency was defined by a council of 14 species who had held their seats for at least 10,000 rotations. The Voranthi held seat 7. They had occupied it for 14,000 rotations. Efficiency in practice meant compliance. The Himnar had refused to consolidate their cultural festivals. 21 seasonal harmonic rituals spread across a calendar year. Each ritual required 3 days of preparation, 2 days of observance, and 1 day of rest. The Voranthi calculated a 12% productivity loss. They filed a processing request. The council approved it in 4 hours. 8 days later, 14 million Himnar were dead. 9 survived because they had been off-world, attending a linguistics conference on Tethran Station. They had come home to debris and silence. Humanity had joined the conclave 19 rotations ago. Newest member, least diplomatic leverage. The Voranthi had made it clear during the admission hearing. Earth's 9.8 billion lives existed at the council's pleasure. Isara had been at that hearing. She had drunk her water and said nothing. She had also taken notes. 5 days after the Himnar cloth was unfolded, Elder Thesson of the Metheli Collective requested an audience with the human delegation. The Metheli were crystalline, silicon-based biology, bodies composed of lattice structures that grew over centuries. Elder Thesson was 921 years old. Her body showed visible fracture lines running through her torso and upper limbs, glowing faint blue where the cracks caught internal light. In another 100 years, she would shatter completely. That was how the Metheli died, not from failure, but from accumulated age. She moved slowly. Each step made a soft chiming sound, crystal against metal. The human quarters were not designed for beings of her height. She was 7 feet tall. She had to duck beneath the door frame. She stood in the center of the small room and looked at each human in turn. Her voice came as harmonic chimes that the translation field rendered into words. I have studied your wars. Isara set her carafe down, 88 degrees. The genocides you inflicted upon yourselves, Thesson continued. The Tasmanian erasure, the transatlantic trade, the Congo extraction, Cambodia, Rwanda, Darfur, 14 major atrocities across 700 years. She paused. The fractures in her body glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed. And then you stopped, not because you grew powerful, not because you conquered your violent nature. You stopped because you built monuments to your shame. You named streets after the dead. You built museums that forced children to walk through recreations of the camps. You wrote the names on walls and made your citizens read them. She looked at Isara. You forced your children to say never again, and you meant it. Isara said nothing. Her thumb pressed against the copper coin in her pocket, smooth, warm from body heat. Thesson extended a fractured hand. The crystalline structure was visibly fragile, held together by molecular bonds that age had thinned. Isara stood. She took Thesson's hand in both of hers. Warmth passed between them. Thesson's eyes widened. I have never felt heat without pain before. Neither have we, Isara said quietly. Thesson's hand trembled slightly. The fractures in her palm glowed soft blue. The Metheli Collective holds 91 worlds. We pledge our vote to humanity's motion to reclassify the resource optimization doctrine as a war crime. She withdrew her hand. The warmth lingered. But more than that, Thesson said, we pledge to remember with you for however long it takes. She left the quarters. Her footsteps chimed down the corridor. Halley's picked up his knitting needles. Click, click, click. That's 91 votes. 91 out of 421, Sophia said. Still not enough. It's a start, Amara said. She pulled up a star chart on her hand-cranked tablet. Voranthi Prime star, burning steady at the center of the display. And we don't need a majority vote to make this work. Yuki opened the bone jar. He removed a single fragment and held it up to the light. They wanted their matter to mean something after death. Now it will. Isara drank from her carafe. The water had cooled to 86 degrees. She refilled it, clipped the thermometer to her belt, waited for the element to heat the water back to 88. "Who else is coming?" she asked. Amara turned the crank. The star chart zoomed out. 11 species markers appeared scattered across the sector. The Vorish, orbital mining victims. 7 worlds, the Tethran. Linguistic suppression survivors. 12 worlds, the Pelakri. Cultural simplification, 3 worlds. She kept listing. Each species had been processed or threatened with processing. Each had filed evidence that the conclave archived and ignored. Each had learned that compliance bought survival, but survival without memory was just slow erasure. 11 species, 103 worlds combined. No public announcements, no conclave hearings, no broadcasts. Just quiet nods in side corridors, shared memorial readings in cramped quarters, bone fragments added to a ceramic jar. Over 17 days they came. Isara poured warm water into 11 cups, 88 degrees each. They drank together. The coalition formed in silence while, unnoticed, 52 gravitational lensing arrays began to wake from 39 years of sleep. Amara Osa initiated the Shepherd sequence at 09:14 Galactic Standard Time. Her hand-cranked tablet displayed 52 green indicators, each one a gravitational lensing array waking from 39 years of dormancy. She turned the crank. The indicators pulsed. One by one, the arrays retasked their collection fields away from passive stellar harvest and toward a single focal point, Voranthi Prime star. The stellar output began declining at a rate of 0.004% per hour. No visible flare, no thermal spike, no anomaly that would trigger automated alarms. Just a slow, patient reduction in the amount of light leaving the star's photosphere. Isara set her carafe down, 88 degrees. How long until they notice? Depends on what they're looking for, Amara said. She pulled up a projection chart, a smooth declining curve. If they're monitoring total stellar output, they'll see drift within 6 hours. If they're only watching their power grid, it'll take months. They'll dismiss it as instrument error, Yuki said. He had been monitoring Voranthi communication channels for 3 years. He knew how they thought. They recalibrate instead of investigate. Sophia drank her cold coffee. And if they do investigate, they'll find 52 derelict survey probes exactly where we said they'd be in the public filing, Amara said. Debris, space junk, nothing worth a second look. Hallie's finished another row. Click, 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 47. 47 what? Sophia asked. Days until the first brownout, Hallie said. He did not look up from his knitting. If the curve holds. The curve held. 6 hours after activation, neutrino detectors across the sector went silent. Neutrinos were ghost particles, nearly massless, passing through matter without interaction. Stars produced them in fusion reactions deep in their cores. Detectors measured the flux to monitor stellar health. The Voranthi Science Cast filed the sudden drop in neutrino readings as instrumental drift. They recalibrated their equipment. The readings stayed low. They recalibrated again. On day 12, a junior technician submitted a report suggesting the star itself might be experiencing reduced fusion efficiency. The report was reviewed by a senior administrator who had held the position for 4,000 rotations. He marked it as speculative and filed it in the long-term observation queue. No alarms were raised. On day 47, the outermost Voranthi colony, a mining station orbiting a frozen moon called Kelver 3, experienced its first brownout. Power dropped 8% for 14 minutes, then recovered. The station administrator logged it as a relay malfunction and submitted a maintenance request. On day 63, 2 more colonies reported brownouts. The pattern was spreading inward, from the outer edges of Voranthi space toward the core. On day 89, the FTL relay network efficiency dropped 14%. Communication lag increased 7 seconds per light year. Messages that should have taken minutes now took hours. The Voranthi Ministry of Infrastructure convened an emergency committee to investigate the relay degradation. They did not look at the star. Commander Bridger Halleys had not spoken in 63 days. He knitted. He drank water. He attended the daily memorial readings where Isara spoke the names from the bioluminescent cloth. On day 63, he set his needles down and looked at Amara's tablet. "They still think this is a technical malfunction," he said quietly. "They have no concept of patient hostility." Isara paused mid-name. Number 4012. A musician, 17 years old, played an instrument that required 3 hands and produced harmonics in frequencies humans could not hear. She looked at Halleys. "No," she said, "they don't." She returned to the names. Halleys picked up his needles. Scarf 23. He had given away the first 22 to species who came to the memorial readings. The Vorish, the Tethran, the Pelakri, 9 Himnar survivors, Elder Thessin. Each one wrapped the scarf around their neck and stayed for the names. On day 107, Voranthi outer colonies began reporting sustained temperature drops, 3 degrees Celsius on average. Orbital mirrors designed to focus supplemental heat onto frozen moons were losing coherence. The stellar radiation they collected had weakened by 4.1%. That number finally triggered an alarm, not because the Voranthi recognized an attack, because 4.1% stellar output reduction over 107 days had never been observed in a main sequence star without corresponding mass ejection events. There had been no mass ejections, no solar flares, no coronal instabilities, just a smooth, steady decline in the star's luminosity. High Arbiter Shrell convened an emergency conclave session. The human delegation received the summons at 0600 Galactic Standard. Mandatory attendance, all member species. Isara refilled her carafe, 88 degrees. She added a single drop of honey, first sweetness she had allowed herself in 19 years. It dissolved in spirals. "They know something is wrong," she said. "They don't know what or who." "Will you tell them?" Sophia asked. Isara clipped the thermometer to her belt. "Only if they ask the right question." The conclave amphitheater lights were failing. Emergency generators hummed beneath the obsidian floor, a sound the chamber had never been designed to produce or absorb. The acoustic engineering that swallowed whispers and amplified silence now carried the mechanical drone like tinnitus. 421 member species had been summoned. 17 attended. The rest of the seats, 904 of them, sat empty in the dim light. High Arbiter Shrell stood at the central dais. His mandibles remained closed, not spread in amusement, not relaxed in neutrality, closed, locked. His compound eyes scanned the occupied seats. Methily, Vorish, Tethran, Pelakri, 8 others. And the humans, sitting on the supplicant platform 14 feet below the main floor. "Our star is dying," Shrell said. His clicks were slower now, less rhythmic. "Stellar output has declined 4.1% over 107 days. Our outer colonies are experiencing cascading infrastructure failures. Our FTL relay network is degrading. Our diagnostic systems detect no natural cause." He turned his gaze to the humans. "Who engineered this collapse?" Isara stood. She did not climb the 14-foot gap. She stood where she had been placed. She set her carafe on the metal folding table. The soft clink echoed for 3 seconds. Shrell's mandibles twitched. Even the acoustics were failing. "You broadcast footage of 14 million dead and asked if we understood efficiency, High Arbiter." Her voice was 62 decibels, conversational. "We understood. We simply redefined which variable you were optimizing for." She pressed a button on her 7-page brief. The amphitheater's failing hologram system flickered to life. It took 8 seconds to stabilize. 3 numbers appeared in pale blue light above them. 4.1% stellar output reduction. 13 years time until outer colony collapse. 0 Voranthi casualties. Shrell did not move. 52 gravitational lensing arrays, Isara said. positioned in interstellar dead zones in the year 2145, 39 years before humanity achieved faster-than-light certification. We built them. We hid them. We waited. The hologram shifted. A map of the sector. 52 points of light appeared, arranged in a perfect sphere around Voranthi Prime's star. Each array bends light, Amara said from the platform. She had stood beside Isara. Not much. 0.004% per hour, distributed across 52 focal points. Individually undetectable. Collectively, we have reduced your star's effective output by 4.1%. The hologram zoomed in on a single array. 900 meters wide, gossamer-thin collection surfaces, quantum-locked gravitational lenses. You cataloged them as derelict survey probes, Amara continued. Space junk, debris not worth recovering. They have been operational for 107 days. Shrell's mandibles opened, closed, opened again. You are collapsing our civilization. No, Isara said. We are making you inefficient. She pulled up a second chart. Colony habitability thresholds overlaid against the stellar output curve. At current reduction rates, your outer colonies will become uninhabitable in 13 years. Not destroyed, not burned, just too cold to sustain your infrastructure. You will have to evacuate, consolidate, redirect resources inward. A third chart appeared. Voranthi casualties, a flat line at 0. We did not kill anyone, Isara said quietly. We did not destroy your ships. We did not invade your worlds. We did not process your population. She picked up her carafe. The water was still warm. We collapsed your star's output by 4.1% over 9 years. You never noticed until the grid died. That is the difference between loud power and patient power. She drank. Shrell's exoskeletal structure made a sound like cracking ice. Stress, rage, disbelief. You would condemn billions to displacement, to resource scarcity, to what the Himnar experienced. Isara set the carafe down. To what the Vorish experienced, the Tethran, the Pelakri, the 47 other species your ascendancy has processed in the name of efficiency. She stepped forward, still on the platform, still 14 feet below him. We did not come to win a war, High Arbiter. We came to file evidence that would outlast any verdict. The hologram shifted again. Case files. Hundreds of them. Each one an archived record of a species processed under the resource optimization doctrine. Every name, Isara said. Every thermal scan, every testimony, archived, public record. Preserved in systems you cannot delete without admitting they matter. Elder Thesson rose from her seat in the diplomatic gallery. Her crystalline body chimed softly as she moved. Humanity builds monuments to their own failures. Then they make certain no one else repeats the lesson. Isara looked up at Thesson. We did not come to destroy you. We came to make you irrelevant, and we will continue reading the names until the ink fades and the stars go cold. Shrell stared at the hologram, at the 3 numbers, at the flat line marked 0 casualties. His mandibles stayed closed. He turned, walked from the dais. His 4 arms hung at his sides, blade ridges catching the dim emergency light. He did not speak. He left the chamber. None of the 17 species followed him. The amphitheater held its silence. 3 seconds, 5, 10. Then Elder Thesson chimed again, soft and clear. What monument will you build for this? Isara looked at the empty seats, at the fading hologram, at her delegation still standing on the platform where they had been placed. The same one we always build, she said. Memory. 3 days later, 52 humans gathered with 9 Himnar survivors and Elder Thesson in the debris field that had once been the Himnar homeworld. No ships, no stations, just floating wreckage and the cold vacuum between stars. They assembled in environmental suits, tethered to a small transport vessel. Amara had rigged a local communication network so they could hear each other without relay lag. Yuki opened the ceramic jar. 300 bone fragments inside. He removed one, held it up to the starlight. They wanted their matter to mean something after death, he said. He placed the fragment in a collection net filled with debris-filled soil, dust and ice, and trace minerals that had once been buildings, bodies, atmosphere. The fragment settled among the gray particles. There will be others, Yuki said. Isara stepped forward. She carried a data chip containing 921 names, not just Himnar victims, human first contact war casualties, methylene resistance dead, Vorish mining disaster victims, every species that had learned what efficiency meant when wielded by those who measured value in compliance. She read the names aloud, her voice transmitted across the local network. Each name took 3 seconds. 46 minutes later, she reached name 921. Commander Halley's placed 42 stones in a spiral pattern on the transport vessel's hull. One for each year Silent Shepherd had waited in the dark. The stones were smooth river rocks from Earth, carried across light years in his personal effects allowance. The spiral caught the starlight, held it for a moment, then the vessel's rotation carried it into shadow. Amara poured cold mint tea from her dented canteen into 11 cups. Magnetized bases kept them fixed to the hull. She handed one to Elder Thesson. Thesson lifted the cup. Her crystalline fingers glowed faint blue. She tasted the tea. "It is cold," she said, "and sharp." Amara nodded. "Yes, that is also us." Sophia raised her chipped coffee mug, world's adequate parent in fading letters. "To the ones who made us remember." They drank in silence. Above them, Voranthi Prime's star burned at 95.9% of its previous output. The arrays held their focus. The decline continued. No alarms, no emergency session, no conclave votes. Just slow, patient pressure applied to the infrastructure of certainty. 6 months later, the human delegation still occupied the 14 by 20-foot quarters on Nexus Station. The conclave had not convened a single session. High Arbiter Shrell had not returned to the amphitheater. The Voranthi relay network remained offline. 19 species had filed petitions to reclassify the resource optimization doctrine as a war crime. The petitions sat in the administrative queue, waiting for a council that no longer met. Commander Halley's was on Scarf 27, gray wool, same pattern he had used for the previous 26. Click, click, click. Amara studied star charts on her hand-cranked tablet, tracking the slow decline in Voranthi's stellar output. 4.3% now. The curve held steady. Sophia drank coffee from her adequate parent mug, still tasted like burnt plastic. She still drank it. Yuki's ceramic jar held 307 bone fragments. 17 species had contributed since the memorial gathering. Each one had asked to be remembered. Isara sat alone in her corner of the quarters. The wooden box of photographs remained open on the table. 43 images now. She had not added more. The glass carafe sat empty beside the box. 72 degrees, room temperature stripped of intent. She had poured the last cup 3 hours ago. Elder Thesson had visited to deliver the Metheli Collective's latest petition filing. They had shared the warmth in silence. Thesson's crystalline hand had stopped glowing when the cup touched her palm. The first time heat had felt like comfort instead of threat. Isara looked at the empty carafe. Condensation had formed on the glass when it was full. Now the surface was dry. The thermometer still hung from her belt. She would fill it again tomorrow. Heat the water to 88 degrees. The exact point where warmth becomes comfort without becoming pain. There would be others who needed to feel something that didn't burn. The amphitheater's 921 seats stayed empty. No one rebuilt the relay. The warmth stayed at 88 degrees.